Meowth. Meow. The biggest problem with Meow isn't that it's just another signature YG style sound, it's that you can tell that these producers are running out of good sounds to throw into that beat drop. The song has its stronger moments, the pre-chorus is pretty standardly good, and there's some keyboard touches in the instrumental that add some interesting colors to the song, but as a whole, the song just doesn't stand out. And that chorus is really way too obnoxious to me. It's just straight up not sounding good. It's grating and annoying, and while I get that art is subjective, I can't imagine how the producers came up with these distorted meows as the main hook, and then several other people heard that and went, yeah, that sounds great. The song also feels a lot shorter than it is somehow. I looked at the runtime after finishing listening to it for the first time, and I was genuinely shocked that it was longer than 2 minutes. There's so little going on that I'm surprised that they managed to fill the time. Let's pray for better music next release, but my expectations are on the ground for the Black label. Nuo, Libre. Wow, Libre, can you tell that I'm so incredibly American? Oh my god, okay, whatever. So, Focus, the title track, is a fun enough dance song. The mixing is just like a hair off. The vocals get lost a bit once the chorus instrumental is in full swing, and the rap really isn't integrated well into the song. I do like the song fundamentally, I think. The synths they use are really cute and kind of bouncy, elastic sounding. I think I would have preferred it if the song was sung with a little bit like less cutesy delivery. It does get a bit grating. Track 2, Tomorrow, is a pop ballad. The cutesy vocals are less grating here for the most part. The song is pretty boring though, it's not doing much for me. And then the final track, Beautiful Night acoustic version, is fine. I haven't heard the original version of the song and I don't really have any interest in doing so, but I think it makes a decent acoustic track. The vocals are once again a bit grating, but I'm going to blame that on the mixing. Aside from that though, it's fine. I don't know, I really have no feelings towards this musically. If you're a new girl group fan, I'm sure this is right up your alley musically, but I have no strong thoughts, positive or negative, about this release. Youngtak, Super Super. Super Super is like a silly goofy song with a bouncy instrumental. It's kind of fun and pretty cleanly produced, but I don't know, I felt like it could have been slightly more energetic. It feels slightly half-baked for a lead single. On the album, the only song that I really enjoyed all that much was Blue Ketchup. It's a nice, like, chill, kind of jazzy track with a good bass part. The overall instrumental is really nice, with not only that bass, but also what sounds like a harpsichord or something similar thrown in, although that might just be a synth and I don't know what instruments are. It's cool though. The other B-sides were a little bit less inspiring. Sarang OK is like a higher energy trot song, and then Autumn Time is a pretty decent ballad. The final track, Brighten, is more energetic. I'd say it's like a pop ballad. It's like a, coming of age, nostalgic, yada yada. Yeah, this EP is alright with no major flaws in its production or composition. It's just not really that interesting to me personally. 'Cause you were Cleo, You're Mine. I love to see like a first-gen group have a little reunion with a fun dance song. I mean, technically 2 of the members are brand new, but it's still a fun moment for me. The song itself is pretty decent, with a lot of house influence infused in it. I don't think it stands out that much though. I mean, we've gotten better house songs from K-pop groups this year. I do like the members' vocal tones on the song. They sound pretty clear and kind of like tangy on top of the glitchy instrumental. I just think the song could have taken it a step further to be a bit more exciting. As it is though, it's still good, if slightly half-baked dance music that I'm sure you can have a good time listening to. Super Junior D&E, Inevitable. Go High is my new Public Enemy #1. I'm so sorry, but I just don't think that they pull off the concept of the song. Their tones are kinda too weird for the rap verses in my opinion, and that chorus with its glitchy electronic voice is off-putting to say the least. The song is trying to be a quirky hip-hop electronic dance song, and it's succeeding, but not in a way that produces something that's actually listenable. I was able to kinda get into the song's outro because the bass boost did make the listening experience slightly less disorienting, but as a whole, the song does fail. I want my 2 minutes and 45 seconds back. The B-sides were fine though. Break is a significantly better song simply because it is more normal. Experimentation is cool and all, but sometimes you should just try to make a standard song with a standard instrumental, I don't know. Break has some Latin influence actually, which makes it somewhat interesting actually. They should have made this the title track. I can even imagine a decently cool music video to accompany it. Runaway is also a fun enough pop song with a strong beat and guitars. I don't like the rap verse, but it also would have been a more appealing title track than Go High. Only You is a bit more relaxed and R&B influenced. It's got a kind of cool guitar solo at the end as well. Eau de Parfum. That's my best attempt. I hate the French, I'm so sorry. Was the song that was the most actively trying to pull me in, with a prominent bass riff designed to get into my good graces. The rhythm and beat of the song justify the rap verses, which is kind of incredible. I do like the song, I think. I'm a sucker for a groovy bass, what can I say? Finally, Plausible Theory is a chill, late-night driving kind of song that acts as a good closing for the album. Despite my increasingly intense hatred for the title track, the rest of the album was pretty good, especially the last two songs, which don't do anything very special, but they do deliver some pretty standard song formulas with a lot of competence. Overall, I think that is how I would describe this album. Competent, but not really reaching out to me as something special, except for that title track. That is special in a bad way, and I will not justify why I hate it so much. I just hate it. Lost, Only One. Only One is a sentimental pop rock song. It incorporates its rap verses a bit awkwardly, and it doesn't do all that much to distinguish itself from the myriad other sentimental K-pop rock songs released even just this month, but it's not bad on any fundamental level. The mixing is decent, they've got some good background harmonies going on. The song just isn't unique enough to justify my listening to it over other similar songs, I think. Amazon, the B-side, is more energetic, more my style, and I've had more fun listening to that song over the title track. It starts immediately with a fast beat to hook the listener, and then introduces a hint of electric guitar in the pre-chorus before it returns to the fast beat and synths for the chorus. The rap verse in the song is somehow a bit more awkward than the one and only one, so that might be an issue with the members rather than the songwriting, but other than that, I prefer Amazon completely over Only One. Not that it's some kind of masterpiece, but it's the kind of energetic K-pop song with a bassier sound that completely numbs my brain in a really good way. It kind of reminds me of Supercalifragilistic by Psychers. Maybe that's why I like it so much. So yeah, overall, this wasn't anything particularly special for a K-pop debut, but the songs weren't bad or poorly made or anything. They just didn't stand out as much as you want them to when there's so much music being released all the time. Zodiac, Someday. The summer is having everyone nostalgic and in their feels, huh? Our Days is a pretty standard sentimental pop song on first glance, but it includes this completely baffling electronic breakdown in the second verse. It already has a rappy, chanty part in the pre-chorus, which I think does a good enough job at being quirky. I don't know why the second verse was the way it was. If I had to guess, it was to foreshadow the NCT-style synth-based floaty bridge we get later on, which does sound good, but there are better sounding ways to foreshadow something like that. I like the ambition of the songwriters to take a pretty classic pop song style and twist it around a bit. I just think the execution could have been slightly cleaner. I do want to reward this kind of experimentation though. I think it's a good way for a lesser known group to try and make some noise, so I ultimately do like the song. I will just continue to be baffled by what's going on for a brief moment in the second verse. The B-sides are a bit more normal, I guess. Forever Young is a typical synth dance song. It's slightly reminiscent of the summers of the early 2010s, but if the album is going for a nostalgic tone, musical callbacks like that actually do kind of work for me. Better With You is a sweet enough pop ballad. I like what the instrumental does by the time the second pre-chorus rolls around. The beat starts getting slightly more exciting before it calms down again for the next chorus. It's really well made. Lean on Me is an acoustic track with some pretty background harmonies, and then Magic, the final song, is a sweet R&B pop song. It's got some cute guitar lines behind everything else and some rounder sounding synths that give the song an overall late night vibe. This was a very charming mini album, I think. The production is decent, and with the first 3 songs, you get the sense that the songwriters were trying to find ways to make tried and true pop song formulas slightly more interesting. I overall applaud their efforts, but I'm probably not going to be listening to these songs all that much. I'm not that intrigued by most of them. You make me so happy. Crazy, yeah, you love me. I'm dancing on the road. Kino, Dancing on the Road. Dancing on the Road is a nice chill dance song. It's pretty atmospheric from the round synths used in the background ornamentations. It creates a really nice, late night vibe. Kino's slightly softer vocal tone suits a song like this, and the groove at the core of the song makes it addictive enough to return to for repeat listens. This is definitely a step up from songs like Broke My Heart or Freaky Love. It's a lot more charming, I think. If this is the direction he's going to go in for his next EP, whenever that's happening, I'd be pretty happy because the song is a really good listen.
Electric shock, oh, oh, oh. Straight to my heart, oh, oh, oh. 화들짝 놀라, wow. I gotta keep my hands up to the stars.
Kang Daniel, Act. I feel like this is just a very standard Kang Daniel EP in my opinion. The album opens with Losing Myself, which is a dance track with an intense synth powering the chorus. I think that chorus gets a bit too loud at moments, not because there's too much going on or anything, but instead because it feels like they turned up the volume a bit too much, so everything gets like kind of crunchy in my headphones. I like the song otherwise. It's got a cool guitar riff at the instrumental's core, and the intensity of the song certainly is a strong way to open the album. Track 2, Get Loose, is a bit more sleek in its production. It's got a glitchy, stuttering synth, I think, underneath the verses and quieter vocals to start. The chorus does feel slightly empty though. I think they could have come up with something slightly more interesting than just vocals and a trap beat. The title track, Electric Shock, is fine. I like the instrumental at the core of the song. It's got some strings arpeggiating back and forth in the background, supported by darker synths. I do think it's slightly underwhelming for a title track. It takes a bit too long to really heat up, and by the time it's in full swing, it's already over. That's generally a problem with Kang Daniel's title tracks. With few exceptions, I find them not particularly exciting, I guess. I mean, I guess he's going for like a more sophisticated, mature vibe, but it just doesn't really connect with me. Electric Shock has no glaring issues, I just think it could be doing more. Come Back to Me featuring Chungha is a sweeter, I want to say garage-inspired song. It's got a cute string instrument on top of the lower synths, and it utilizes Chungha's feature really well. She pops up in a lot of the background vocal moments aside from her verses. It's also a bit too calm for what I'm in the mood for, but I'm sure the song would make a great addition to many people's study playlists or something. Aside from Losing Myself, 9 Lives is probably the most energetic track. It still features a kind of like low-key vocal delivery and all that, but I like the synth. It's kind of bouncy and really fun to listen to. The song is really an easy earworm. I've been catching myself humming along to it a couple of times. As a whole, I found this mini-album a bit underwhelming, as I'm sure you figured out. There's no glaring issues, so if you think you like the title track, you'd probably also enjoy the album as a whole. It's just slightly, like, away from my own musical tastes.
We can live it up in a retro romance. Woo! Kiss me on the dance floor. Work, 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 work it. Give me more. Work, 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 work it.
Hyo, retro romance. Hyo releasing a funk song makes a decent amount of sense to me. I'm sure these kinds of songs invite some pretty fun choreography. The song is pretty well produced. It's got the necessary groove behind everything alongside some synths that evoke brass instruments. The little work, work, work it's in the back of the chorus ironically don't really work for me. They sound kind of goofy, as do a couple of the other ad-libs. But overall, the song is just a standard summery dance track. It's a good time, even if it's not anything special.
Run away. 더 늦기 전에 기회를 줄게. 내게 안기면 you will back to stay.
Chewy, About You. I'm not particularly surprised that Chewy's going solo considering how popular she is. I guess I just didn't think that it would be happening right now. Since she said she was the one who approached the company about having her debut, I am really happy that it happened, and I think she's done a good job with her debut. Musically, though, this did not feel like it was the best it could be. It's one thing to go in just like a clean pop direction, like what Jihyo did for her debut or Nayeon on her Na album, but this feels like one step below standard pop. Half of the songs feel half-baked. I'm not mad at the creative direction, I'm mad at the execution. Runaway conceptually really suits Jui. This sophisticated, elegant concept is a perfect match for her breathtaking visuals and the slightly deeper tones in her voice. The song itself, though, is slightly underwhelming for me. I like the little sparkly synths added to parts of the chorus. They give the song a magical quality that makes it a bit more interesting. Aside from that, though, none of the parts of the song are particularly memorable. The song goes in all the directions I thought it would, and because of that, it feels a bit underdeveloped. Jui sounds a bit like she's fighting to hit some of the notes in the chorus, and I don't think she was directed to take full advantage of her vocal tone. It's certainly like a good song, but I think a solo debut for the most popular member of the nation's girl group should have been a bit, like, just more, I guess. Heartbreak in Heaven, the next track, is another pop track, this time slightly toned down in energy. It's also not particularly memorable to me, even Penny's rap verse feels half-hearted. It sounds very much like a standard radio-friendly pop song. Lazy Baby, track 3, is finally something a bit more interesting. It's a very high-energy dance song with a slightly old-school pop vibe. This is the most character I've ever heard from Chewie put into her voice, and she sounds almost like a new person. It's really exciting. The big band sound adds even more character to the song. For a song called Lazy Baby, the song feels like the complete opposite. It's so fun, and it grabs your energy immediately. It's a 10 out of 10 procrastination anthem. Losing Sleep, number 4, is more high-energy dance music, with a sharp synth in the instrumental and some echoey effects on top of Chewie's vocals. It doesn't quite have the same distinctive character as Lazy Baby, but it's still more fun than Runaway. The ending is a bit anticlimactic, just repeating the final line with the same synth melody. I think a slightly more interesting instrumental break or something would have been more fun. Love is in the unenviable position at the bottom of my ranking. It's a very 2010s sounding EDM song with an emotional appeal in its lyrics and vocal delivery. I honestly didn't really know how I felt about the song at first. I like the more old-timey feeling verses, but that chorus is just a specific type of electronic music that I simply do not care for. I think I have like a net neutral opinion on the song, but I just do kind of wish that it wasn't included on the album. I get wanting to throw in another more emotional song, but I'm sure JYP has better material lying around. And it seems that some of that better material is included in Fly, the final song of the album, and also the song with lyrics written by Chewie. It's a really good pop ballad with a good emotional core and a pretty instrumental. The strings and piano combination is by no means unique for an album-concluding ballad, but they're still reutilized really effectively. Despite some of the stronger moments, like Lazy Baby and Fly, this album did not feel appropriate for a solo debut, to me at least. Conceptually, visually, it works, it's just that it's musically pretty uninspired. I feel like I didn't learn that much as I wanted to about what Chewie has to say as a solo artist, which is a shame.
너의 남자로 받아줄래 너의 남자로 살아볼게 I can do it everything 온 우주가 우리를 바래
Nam Woo-hyun, Boyfriend. Boyfriend is a fun pop rock song that sounds almost exactly like the theme song for a romance show or something. It's got the energetic guitars, strings for emphasis, and great vocals that are necessary to start off any fictional love story. That pre-chorus with the aforementioned strings really does hit so hard. It completely stops the building energy of the song for a brief moment. It's also kind of startling if you're really getting into the song, but it's also just really fun and a great moment. The song is like the standard for boyfriend-style pop rock, and I have to applaud it for that. Woo-hyun always delivers in that aspect, if we're being honest, so I expected nothing less from him.
Go hit that conjugal
Yeonjun, Gum. I'm not going to talk about the insane hate train following the song's first reveal because I have no interest in that. You're totally allowed to dislike whatever music you dislike, but there definitely is a line between criticism and mindless hate, and so many people crossed that line recently, I just don't want to deal with it. I actually thought that I would like this song a lot less based on the initial bits that were teased, but I've had a lot more fun with it than I anticipated. Actually, I think he could have gone even weirder with the overall musical direction of the song. I don't really like the high-pitched vocals following the beat drop, but that's the only part of the song that I really take issue with. Yeonjun seems to have a lot of fun with the delivery of his rap verses, and I also like the instrumental a decent amount. I don't think I've heard that many beat drop dance tracks that use a piano sound as their main hook. It's kind of cool. This isn't really my ideal Yeonjun solo debut track, I think, and I've seen many other people express that opinion, but I'm not the one who's recording and performing the song, so it's not up to me to decide what he debuts with, and I'm at peace with that. I wouldn't be surprised if this song grows on me a bit more after a little while because it's been stuck in my head a lot recently.
우리 삶은 모의고사 같아서 매번 정답을 모르겠어 이게 맞는지 저게 맞는지 나도 모르겠지만
Pagehun, Exam. I'm not sure how I stumbled upon this EP, but I'm really glad I did. I had a really good time with it. The album opens with Firefly Light, a really sweet acoustic track. It's quiet and low-key, quite calming. It's not a standout, but it's well produced and he sounds pretty good singing it, so if you're into soft acoustic stuff, you might want to check that song out. Pre-Exam is another song that I find really charming. It's like a standard sentimental pop song, but it's pretty well made. The guitars and little bits of brass instrumentation work well together, and he sings in the same sweet tone he used for Firefly Light. I've been listening to this song a lot on my morning walks. I think it creates a good mood to start my day with. Reasons I Couldn't Tell is another sweet acoustic song. You can hear he has like a slight lisp in some of his line deliveries, and I think it's kind of cute. Slow Dance is just a touch more energetic than the first three songs, with also a touch more oomph behind the vocal delivery. It's got a bit of a groove, so you kind of want to sway alongside the melody when you're listening to it. Play With Me continues the energy that was brought in Slow Dance. It's got the loudest instrumental, with the electric guitars and drums in pretty full swing. The vocal delivery is sweet as ever, which does feel slightly out of place in moments where the song is really revving to go, but it works for the most part. This was overall just a really sweet EP filled with sentimentality and overall good vibes. You should play it if you're going on a road trip back to your hometown or something. Jung Soo-min, 20. Moment to Glow is a good atmospheric track with a great combination of spacey synths and guitars. Out of all the Jung Soo-min songs that I've heard so far, I feel like Moment to Glow is one of the ones with the richest instrumental. I normally consider his music to be more acoustic leaning, so hearing synths featured so prominently is a bit surprising, but they're incorporated very well, and the overall mood of the song is still very warm, like a lot of his other stuff. Track 2, Ayo, is the kind of typical acoustic-leaning track from him that I was talking about. I don't think the song can technically be considered acoustic though. The trap beat and underlying layer of something electronic sounding probably technically disqualifies it, but the vibe is still very laid back and the song sounds somewhat minimal. Redo uses some little phone call sound effects and muffled vocals as well. They're really cute effects, I think. The song is overall really calming with a chill bass line, softer guitar, and softer beat overall. It's just overall very soft and comforting, despite the fact that the lyrics are on the sadder side. Siren is a sentimental ballad with a softer instrumental, featuring a typical string and guitar combination for the chorus and a slightly more acoustic verse. I still don't really know what makes, even a well-made ballad hit or miss for me, but this one does hit. I was in my feels while listening to it for the first time. Remy, the last song, is a really sweet acoustic love song. It's so cute, like the kind of song that plays in the background of some aesthetic Lifetime YouTubers' montage of their morning routines or while they're strolling through flower fields or whatever they record. I think you get the vibe. This was just another really full of good vibes mini album, perfect for chill mornings or aesthetic YouTube video compilations, whatever floats your boat. I liked it despite the kind of sweeter, more laid-back pop sound not being my main genre that I listen to. This was still really enjoyable.
Hit your heart just like a wave. 물결치는 얼굴 춤을 추듯이.
Yerin, Rewrite. Wavy, the title track, is a high-energy house dance track with really pretty stringy and brassy elements in the instrumental to accompany the upbeat energy. It's a perfect middle point of energy between Aria and Bam Bam Bam, and it's so far my favorite title track of hers. I don't really have that much to say about it. I mean, I think the little preview that you get before I start talking tells you all you need to know about it. It's just kind of fun to listen to. The B-sides, I also have similar feelings about. They're fun, but I don't have all that much to say about any individual one. Shine is a slower R&B song with a steadily marching beat and some really gorgeous background vocals supporting the main melody. The rap verse is fine. I would have really appreciated a more melodic second verse though to accompany the overall dreamy vibe, but overall the song is alright. Permeate starts with a strong prominent bass riff to lead the song. The song feels like it takes inspiration from some old school rock, but its overall sound is definitely still leaning towards dance pop, using some synths as the main instrument to carry the melody instead of guitars. Save Me uses its slower beat and string-based instrumental to create a magical and slightly mysterious atmosphere, basically like something off of Oh My Girl's recent mini-album. At least that's the connection that immediately came to mind for me. Something featuring Diane of Kepler is really fun. Diane always kills these energetic dance hip-hop songs, so she naturally does a great job with this song as a feature. Whoever put her on this track was a bit of a genius. Yerin is also great, as is the song as a whole, with a kind of funky groove and just overall really fun, lighthearted energy. For You is a standard summer dance track executed really well. It's pretty infectious with a strong beat and relaxed vocals from Yerin. Overall, this was a pretty solid mini-album. With the exception of Permeate, none of the songs were particularly attention-grabbing, but I did enjoy most of them a good amount. It's pretty clear that Yerin's direction as a solo artist is going to be primarily leaning towards creating this synth-heavy dance tracks, which works for her, I guess.
I just wanna 어딜 보고 잔다던가 잠꼬대라던가 너도 모르는 습관들도 wanna wanna know.
Jinho, Chord. This album is a little bit two-faced, and you'll see why by the end of this segment. So title track number 1, Goodbye With You, is pretty decent. Jinho has been one of my favorite K-pop vocalists for a while, so naturally I think he did a pretty good job on this song, which is primarily a pop ballad. The production is pretty good as well, with the standard instrumentation and build-up you'd expect from its genre. It's not really something I'd listen to all that much, but it's still decent, and of course my favorite part is the guitar solo that we get in the bridge. Title track number 2, Teddy Bear, is also pretty good. It's an easy listening, kind of jazzy track that makes good use of Jinho's lower register. It's just a good time, and I've been listening to it a lot while studying. The album then takes a turn after the 2 title tracks and when we start getting into the B-sides. Dear Precious One, Our Shimmering Days is a mouthful of a title, but it's also a really good boost of energy to the album, being an up-tempo pop rock song perfect for the end of the summer. By the end of this video, you will be very aware of the fact that I am a sucker for pop rock, and so naturally I had a great time listening to this. It's pretty standard for the genre as well, but it's well executed. Over is an incredibly dramatic rock song that utilizes Jinho's capabilities as a vocalist that we normally get to hear only in musical performances or song covers. He has some really clear delivery of lower lines in the verses, and then he gets to do some more belty deliveries in the chorus, and the instrumental supports him fully, with an electronic guitar behind the chorus and barely anything behind the verses. It's the kind of song you'd only think of writing if you know you've got someone with the capabilities to fully deliver it, and boy is Jinho capable. The song is a real treat. Bad Criminal, the final track, is a really fun dance song with a sleek, kind of sexy vocal delivery from Jinho. It showcases similar vocal depth as Over, but with the dramatics toned down just a little bit. Overall, this was a really good mini-album. The 2 title tracks kind of trick you into thinking that this will be a standard ballad R&B main vocalist project, but the other 3 tracks bring a lot more energy and excitement than anticipated. I highly recommend this mini-album to anyone who just wants to hear some good music with good vocals. It definitely delivers that.
We gave this up too easily, so here I stand just down the street from your door, from your door. No, I don't wanna hold back anymore. And I can't
a.c.e, Anymore, and Just Better. Since both songs were released this month, I'm just combining my reviews into one section. Anymore is an acoustic ballad. a.c.e is just good at ballads, we know this. They've got really great vocalists, and I can't speak on technique, but I can say that all 5 of them, but especially Donghoon and Yuchan, convey so much emotion in their delivery, which is absolutely required for a ballad like this, with a sparse instrumental that forces you to just focus on the vocals. Just Better, by contrast, is also very sentimental, emotional, but this time it's an energetic pop track with some rock-infused elements. This would have absolutely killed in concert. I would have sung along to every line. Just Better is kind of standard, sure, but I like these dudes and I have a good time whenever I put this song on. It reminds me of some of the songs that I listened to when I was younger. Boyfriend pop can be really fun when you don't take it too seriously. I think of the 2 songs, Anymore is slightly stronger because it's just a really good fucking ballad, but Just Better is probably going to get more airtime from me. It's a lot more fun to listen to. I am patiently waiting for a proper comeback and not just digital singles from a.c.e, but until that happens, I'll keep on listening to these recent songs. I do kind of miss a.c.e.'s more brash EDM dance K-pop, but they do have a good lineup vocally for these cleaner pop sounds that they're doing right now. Hweeb, Rush of Joy. Hweeb finally has a winning title track for me. I've come very close to truly liking their past title tracks, but they never quite crossed the line for me. Rush of Joy, though, is a great song in my opinion. First of all, it's got a prominent bass riff. That's a great thing, not only because I just love bass a lot, but also because it provides a steady groove for the rest of the song's addictive energy to build on top of. Secondly, its choice of slightly stringy-sounding synths add a great airiness to the song. The guitars are also really fun and provide a great brightness for the instrumental. The song also uses layered vocals to add additional depth to other parts of the song. Everything comes together to create a genuinely excellent funky dance track that the members sound relaxed singing and that I have a great time listening to. Kudos to the songwriters for absolutely nailing the assignment. Play could have been released and promoted separately as a digital single in Another World. It's a pretty standard bright boy group song, and it is kind of indistinguishable from other songs in the style, but it is kind of fun. Against a song as good as Rush of Joy, though, it really has no choice but to play second fiddle. The album pre-release, Sunshine Shy Pretty Girl, was really good, and I think it did set a good tone for the rest of the album. The song is really charming, it's got some cute bell-like synths and brassier elements as well, so the soundscape that it lives in is pretty interesting. Seungkwan's vocal delivery is also a lot sweeter than I've heard from him in a while. It's bordering on cutesy. I like it, it's fun. The title track, Back Hug, is a kind of jazzy pop song with more prominent brass and piano elements in the instrumental. It's high energy and very sunny feeling. There's some breaks in the energy, like when the instrumental strips back to just an acoustic guitar behind his vocals, but for the most part it's very full and complete sounding. Love Is All the Lie also has a kind of jazz band instrumental like Back Hug. It feels a little bit closer, more intimate than Back Hug did, like I'm listening to a band perform near me in a cafe or something. I like that vibe. The song also features a really cool sort of breakdown before its bridge, where the instruments get a bit more intense and the beat of the song quickens its pace before the energy has to cool down again. Day and Night is more R&B style, it's a bit calmer. The rap verses work here. He uses a bit of a softer tone which matches the song's energy and then transitions into more, I'd say like a talk singy style. It's good overall. Love Algorithm was another pre-release technically, and it has gotten some airtime on my like chill music playlists. It's a pretty good acoustic R&B song with a sunny vibe. The final song, Only Love Me, starts out with this kind of really soft drums joined by a brass instrument. There's even some kind of like bird sounds in the background, so the song overall has a very sweet, calming effect. I highly recommend listening to the song with some like noise-canceling headphones if you can. It's got such a great relaxing vibe to sink into. The song's instrumental layers build up a bit, adding an acoustic guitar, bass, and synth touches to create a richer soundscape. I mean, all of the songs on this EP had pretty impeccable vibes, but Only Love Me really takes the cake. I strongly recommend that you give this entire EP a listen, but if you're only going to check out one song, it should be Only Love Me, in my opinion.
I'm so nice. Better talk to me nice. 상급자야. 너 나가줘 난 mine. Me myself and I, myself and I, myself and I. You get that.
Hwasa. Oh. Despite my apprehension towards the title track, I've actually had a pretty good time listening to this mini album, and I'm really glad that Hwasa delivered this. The first track, Road, is a great ballad song with what to me sounds like some country influence. Hwasa has a great voice for country now that I think about it. The rasp in her voice really suits the genre. This is like the good kind of country music, the kind that feels grounded and really delivers some emotion. Track 2, Hwasa, also has a kind of like, yeehaw feeling with a guitar and harmonica under everything, like the kind of thing that plays before a showdown in a western. It's really fun, and it's really well constructed as well. Those pauses in the instrumental in the second verse are excellent. I think I'd like bad bitch anthems a lot more if more of them took this kind of creative approach to it. Nah, the title track, unfortunately does not have the same creative energy as Hwasa. Instead, it's a much more generic take on a bad bitch anthem. The song's opening verse has some promise. I like the overall melody, and the instrumentation is kind of interesting as well, but that chorus is just really generic club dance music. I like the club music aspect in the second verse. Hwasa's rap has a good flow on top of it, but in the chorus it just feels empty and like it's been done before. I like it more than I like I Love My Body, but that's more to do with the strength of the verses and my general dislike of that song rather than because Nah is a particularly good track. I understand the urge to make this kind of song. It's a very easy recipe for a hit, but you know what other song was also a major hit? Maria, which is in my opinion a much more creative and interesting track. I know it's unlikely while she's under P Nation, but I would love to see some of that creativity in a newer title track of hers. Ego doesn't try to trick the listener like Na does. Instead, it's just a club dance track straight from the jump, and I admire that. The chorus is also a lot more fun than Na's is to listen to, so that's mainly why I prefer Ego. Okay Next is another dance track with house influence. The depth of the instrumental sounds really satisfying when you completely turn up the volume in your headphones. The bass and beat just briefly take over your soul. That rap at the start of the second verse did kind of ruin the vibes for a moment. I know it's meant to be just like a fun, lighthearted moment, but it just feels kind of awkward. Aside from that though, I do really like Okay Next. Just Wanna Have Some Fun is another lighthearted synth dance track with a great bass riff at its core. You can't help but to groove alongside it, it's absolutely infectious. It doesn't really have that much more behind it than a catchy groove, but it's still all you really need to have a good time. The final track, Oh, is a softer R&B number to close the album. It's got some strings in its instrumental to create a dreamy, late-night kind of vibe. It's very sophisticated, I'd say, letting Hwasa deliver some more low-key vocals without sacrificing any amount of emotion. The build-up to a big band for the final chorus is also great. The entire song is pretty impeccably composed the whole way through. As much as I want more songs in the style of Road and Hwasa, I think the dance pop songs that we got in the latter half of the album were also a great time, and they're definitely my preferred method of delivery for a self-confidence concept. I think the album would have gotten a higher ranking for me if I'd found more depth in more of the tracks, but as is, it's still a pretty decent piece of work. Maiden, Rise. Was this worth Kep1er no longer being able to promote as a 9-member group? Emotionally, no, but musically, like low-key, this was good. Uno is a bit disappointing, yes. For a title track, it just doesn't really stand out that much to me. I like the stuttery house track on occasion, but I feel like the song just doesn't do enough to justify its promotion. I think it would work better as like an atmospheric interlude track on a longer album, because it does sound really pretty and dreamy. It's just not enough of a head turner in my opinion, combined with the fact that its title and the group's name already just do not lend itself towards search optimization. As an introduction to the group, I think it ultimately fails a bit because its more laid-back sound just does not give the members enough space to showcase what they can do as individuals. They all feel pretty interchangeable on this track. Like I said, it's not a bad song. I kind of like it even. It just would not have been my first choice of title track for this album. The B-sides get good though. Dararira has a slightly deeper sound with brassier synths and percussion. There's also these chorus vocals buried in the chorus to create a slightly mystical, dare I say, cultish vibe. These deeper dimensions in its composition make the song incredibly addictive and intriguing. The bridge takes away the depth for a glitchy electronic interlude before the song returns in full force with its drums and layers for its final chorus and outro. I'm so glad it got a proper outro as well. It feels like the writers really wanted to flesh out the song and just do it justice, and I think they succeeded. Dopamine is also kind of dreamy and otherworldly. It doesn't use depth to achieve the sound the same way that Darida does. Instead, it employs echoey vocal effects and layers of synth and electronic quirks on top of an electric guitar to create an untethered atmosphere. Timeline is a soft acoustic ballad from Mashiro and Yeso. They both sound really pretty on the song, Mashiro especially. It's not a standout, but it is sweet. Despite my complaints about the title track, I did really love this debut as a whole. Aesthetically, it does feel kind of derivative of some other current trends. I know how long it takes to develop a concept and album for a group, but I wouldn't be surprised to find New Jeans and Islet on the mood board for this project. Nonetheless, I still think the group has time to flesh out a slightly more distinct sound with their following comebacks. I think the B-sides on the CP could lead them to an interesting direction if they follow their sound instead of Uno's. QWER, Algorithms Blossom. I think I like this EP more than Manito from earlier this year, which I already found quite charming. Fake Idol, the pre-release, is really fun to listen to with its energetic guitar and synth work. Like QWER's other works, this is very clearly influenced by J-pop in its aesthetics and sound, and if I'm not mistaken, the group's lead singer was also in a J-pop group at one point, so she definitely sounds good singing in this style. I think as much fun as the song is with how much bounce is included in its composition and how unserious some of the lyric delivery is, some parts of it just aren't sticking that much with me, or at least it's not sticking to me as much as I want it to. I think the song feels slightly one-dimensional. It hits basically the same notes the whole way through, and I would have appreciated just a couple more moments where there was like a slight break in the patterns. I do like the other single, My Name is Malcolm, more, where Fake Idol's charm felt slightly forced, I guess. My Name is Malcolm has a lot of appeal a bit more naturally. I'm a sucker for a clear piano included in a pop rock song's instrumental, especially one in this J-pop style. It gives the song a bit more of a grounded, youthful, and organic sounding character, which works really well when you're trying to deliver slightly more emotionally honest music, which is what My Name is Malcolm feels like it's trying to be. I'm not trying to say that like a piano is necessary for any rock song, just that for the style that QWER is going for, I think the song wouldn't have worked as well without the piano. Yeah. B-side number 1, Let's Love, opens with a great bass riff that is then joined by a guitar and synths, so it was off to a great start in my book. The song feels like it's letting go a bit. It feels slightly less idol-like and more like something that, oh, forgive me for saying this, a quote-unquote real band would come up with. It's just slightly rambunctious and really fun to listen to. Run 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 also prominently features a bass and a piano, so it gets a lot of bonus points for me. It doesn't start off with the same youthful energy as the other songs, instead it crawls along a little bit at the start. It gets quirkier energy in the chorus, with lighter, brighter vocals in the synth lines skedaddling behind everything else. I think the song's greatest strength is how distinct and fleshed out the separate parts are. They work really well together, but they also utilize the differences in tones of different instruments and of the girls' different voices to create really distinct atmospheres. Goodbye My Sadness is a really pretty ballad song. The vocals are really soft at the start, and the layers of the instrumental behind the vocals are great as well. The chorus builds up the energy a bit as the intensity of the emotions increase. The final song, Rebound, is nostalgic, youthful, energetic, and it basically sounds like the ideal opening song for a school-based coming-of-age anime. It includes a very specific type of synth. It's kind of like bell-like, I think, that for some reason really captures that sense of youth for me that makes me reminisce on my childhood, even though my experiences were a lot more boring than the picture that's being painted by this song. I thought this was a really good EP overall. I feel like emotionally it delivered a lot of the same stuff that Manito did, but sound-wise I think they explored a bit more, which was fun. Especially with songs like Run 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 and Let's Love, it felt like they were exploring how they could combine their very J-pop influenced sound with some other kinds of rock, and I think it worked pretty well. I'm not completely obsessed with this album yet, but I did have a good time with it. NCT Wish, Steady. I was really hoping that the cute packaging wouldn't go to waste for a kind of mid-mini album, but it definitely didn't. I was anticipating a slightly different sound for this album, but what we got was still really, really good. Steady, the title track, is by far the calmest, least noisy title track we've gotten from Wish so far. The usual electronic noise we find in the layers of Wish's songs is tuned down significantly and buried even further in the instrumental. But it's still there, even if only barely, so it feels like we're still getting an NCT Wish song rather than like a complete 180. Steady has a kind of dreamy feeling from its synth and electro elements, as well as from the layers on top of the vocals that I've come to expect from them. The song is really charming, cutesy, catchy, basically exactly what you'd expect from Wish trying to make something a little bit less noisy. 3 Minutes also starts calm, but the pre-chorus introduces some slightly more intense synth and fun drum lines. It's like a combination pop-punk coming-of-age song and teen pop dance song. It's simultaneously really nostalgic for me, but it also feels like it's been created in this very weird, like, Cupid world that Wish inhabited in their past music videos. Dunk Shock kind of surprised me because I was just expecting the NCT Dream song, which is actually one of my favorite Dream songs in their discography, but I like this Wish version as well. That main hook has been stuck in my head for basically the entire month, and the rest of the song is super energetic and fun. It has a slightly older school K-pop feel to it, combined with the random fun touches of Wish's signature quirky electronic flares. That final post-chorus completely envelops you somehow, with its synth and enthusiastic woes that feel like they're supposed to be coming from a live crowd. On and On is kind of weird to me. The beat of the song doesn't quite sync up with the instrumental, so everything feels slightly off-kilter and untethered. The vocals, the synth, everything almost feel like they're doing their own thing, creating a dreamy atmosphere to try and swim through. I definitely like the song, it sounds pretty cool, especially in the post-chorus where they introduce an additional beat to march behind the vocals, but the overall vibe of the song is kind of heavy and disorienting. Super Cute is another slower, dreamier song. It's also got some interesting electronic layers behind the vocals, but it doesn't really stand out that much on the album. Its main strength is that it's a great song to play late at night when everything's already starting to feel fuzzy anyways. It's a great companion right before you fall asleep and your brain is starting to go off in all directions. Skate surprised me by how much I liked it. It feels a bit more grounded, with less electronic elements in its instrumental, and instead what sounds like a softer R&B band instrumental, a repeating drumline, a bass, a softer guitar hook. There's still some little electronic ornamentations in parts, but the song as a whole feels like it's gently pulling you back to earth after the slightly unreal feeling of the 2 songs that precede it. The members as vocalists really suit this soft style as well. They all sound really sweet here. In my opinion, the album concludes with Skate, and then Hands Up is like a bonus gift because it completely destroys the atmosphere created by the other songs. I like Hands Up a lot by now. It's pretty addictive, and it basically forces you to get used to the noisier elements of Wish's discography, but man, does it not suit being put at the end of this album. Like, maybe it'll receive some Korean promotion because of it being put here, which would be fun, I guess, but I think if I'm looking at this as a whole artwork, Hands Up does kind of destroy everything, just a tiny bit. I wasn't quite sure what to expect for Wish's first mini-album. They've been pretty consistent in sound and concept-wise so far, with the biggest jump being from Hands Up to Wish, in my opinion, but there were also all mainly Japanese releases. I'm glad that they basically just softened their signature sound a bit for this Korean mini-album rather than going for something completely different. I think it's a good strategy since they're still so early in their career and are still establishing their sound. Vanner, Burn. Vanner's back, baby. Down one member for military service, but back nonetheless. The album opens with Revolver, which starts out with a nice little bass riff under the first verse's raps. The song's overall sound and vibe is very self-confident, and so I think the rock instrumental really suits it. It evokes an image of a slightly overconfident rock star who's used to performing in front of a crowd of screaming fans, although the sound is obviously tweaked a bit to fit a K-pop dance formula. The bridge brings in some more, I'd say, hip-hop elements for a slight break before the song returns to form for the final chorus. It's a really fun time. Automatic, the title track, also has a bass riff at the core of its first instrumental, but the overall sound of the song is a lot more dance-focused. It's a pretty standard, funky dance song, not all too different from what Vanner's done before with songs like Performer, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The song is well produced, with some really cool choices in instrumentation and composition made in the pre-chorus, for instance, and of course, since the members have experience with this kind of sound and concept, they pull it off really well. The song's still a banger, even if it's not out here reinventing the wheel. New Heights is another fun dance song. It's a bit more lighthearted, and its instrumental carries a bit less weight than the first two songs. Blossom is a slower, quieter song. There's some gorgeous harmonies in the background of the pre-chorus and chorus, which create a richer soundscape and a kind of mystical atmosphere around the whole song. The song introduces guitars for the bridge, which just adds to the atmosphere and makes everything feel like you're kind of underwater. Track 5 is Accelerate, which I thought would be a bit noisier based on the title. Instead, its production is actually a bit more minimal, with the most amount of layers appearing for, I'd say, the chorus, where the vocals stack on top of each other for a little bit. The song has some strong moments, especially in the pre-chorus and bridge, which are really pretty and floaty, but I just don't care for the chorus all that much, which is a bit of a shame. Be Together is soft and sentimental in sound, with a piano behind the opening verse. The song gets a bit more fun in the chorus, with a kind of funky selection of instruments included behind the more upbeat vocals from the members. Overall, I found this mini-album also really fun. Vanner have always been pretty consistent with the quality of their music. They always deliver something really fun to dance along to. The B-sides were also all pretty fun to listen to. There weren't any real duds on this mini-album. Everything also had pretty similar instrumentation for the most part, but they utilized their instruments slightly differently, so nothing felt too samey. All around, it was pretty damn good. Yein, Dance With Me. This song is chill city pop. I don't know genres that well. It sounds like city pop to me from its synth pop and brass combination. Yeon's voice is airy on top of the rich instrumental, and the whole song envelops you in a sparkly late-night atmosphere. If you like good vibes and Yukika and or Trey Hart's music, you should definitely check this out. It's so pretty. I need her to release an album sometime soon. I've liked all of her songs so far. Juin, 1234, featuring Moon Soojin. If I had a nickel for every time a member of a disbanded girl group released a city pop digital single this month, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't that much, but it's surprising that it's happened twice. 1234 has a cute little clacky percussion buried somewhere in the instrumental that I couldn't help but to fixate on. It's such a nice detail. The two vocalists work well together. Moon Soojin's voice has a slightly deeper sound than Juwon's airy delivery, so it's a good contrast. This song, like most songs of its genre, is great for late nights. The song has a slightly less sparkle and brassy sound, but it makes up for it with its groovy bass line, and I just overall really enjoyed it. Yena, Nemo Nemo. I'm surprised that I haven't seen an official collaboration between Yena and QWER yet, because this song could have easily been included on their album from this month. Both make really fun, cutesy pop rock with a clear J-pop influence. I guess the main difference that I can think of between the two musically, at least when it comes to title tracks, is that QWER tends to opt for slightly, crunchier synths than Yana does. Anyways, to just talk about Nemo Nemo for a moment, I think it's really fun. It utilizes Yana's naturally high-pitched and cutesy voice really well, and those Nemo Nemos at the end of the chorus are pretty addictive. I think the chorus mainly relies on synths for the main hook, and that works for the most part. The layers of actual instruments under the synth prevent the song from feeling too empty or one note, so I really have no complaints about the direction that was taken. Sugar is light and springy without any heavier instruments to weigh the song down. It's very charming, like something that plays in the background when a character is doing a morning stroll through their quaint town, if you know what I mean. The song has no worries, just vibes. It Was Love is that kind of coming-of-age sounding song that I talk about a lot. It's got some really cute synth flares underneath everything as well. They add a nice charm to the song. I'm trying to remember, I don't think Yana has really done this kind of anime OST style song before, which is kind of surprising. It does really work though. I know that Yana's always been pretty inspired by J-pop and J-rock with her solo music, but this is maybe the release where those influences have been the most prominent. Nemo Nemo really works, and it sounds like she's living a J-idol fantasy, and It Was Love is, like I said, very reminiscent of something you'd hear at the ending credits for a school anime. Honestly, I think this approach to music suits her a bit more than the somewhat heavier sounding pop rock she went for in Good Morning. Those were good songs, but I think a slightly lighter sound just suits her voice and image a bit more. This single's release announcement felt a bit rushed, but other than that, I have no real complaints about the rollout. Van, Come and Go. I was already seated for this comeback the moment it was announced. I really enjoyed his solo debut earlier this year, and I think this EP definitely measures up. Van and Joohyung come back together for the opening track, Sweet, and Lena Cooper is also great. I love the sharper tone of her voice compared to the softer qualities in Van and Joohyung's voices. The song is another really fun pop-punk song with a very danceable melody and the feeling that the narrator is kind of mad at the fact that he's actually in love, which is low-key real as fuck. Feeling is a bit lighter in sound than what was on Crush on You, with maybe more synth elements, but it's still a very natural continuation of what he established in his solo debut. The song feels a little bit like something you'd play during a late night drive as you try to work through your emotions, which is I think a really good avenue for the genre to go into. Track 3, Seasons, is more melancholic and languid in composition. It doesn't have that same volume and intensity as the other two songs, utilizing an acoustic guitar as its main instrument instead of an electric one. Both Van and Alina Key deliver vocals to match. They both sound relaxed, and Alina especially sounds almost dispassionate in her delivery. Tonight is also melancholic, with even softer, lower vocals from Van. It's pretty soothing, with a steady beat and no growing tension or energy to take you out of the trance you fall into when you listen to it. The final track, Sucker for You, is a moody rock song with slightly higher energy than the two songs that preceded on the album. It has a slightly rougher, grungier feel to it, in big part thanks to the lower key instrumental and the rougher tone adopted by the vocalists. This EP is basically exactly what I expected from Van following his Crush on You single from a couple months ago. This is good pop-punk or pop-rock music, which is right up my alley. I'm a big sucker for that genre. I think my only critique is that I tend to gravitate towards more high-energy pop-punk, so the songs on this album weren't quite as up my alley as the songs on Crush on You, but that's clearly a critique based on my personal preferences, not necessarily about the song quality. In terms of song quality, I think overall this was a really strong EP. Dragon Pony, Pop Up. I was really excited for this debut. I heard about it online, and I was not disappointed at all. I thought this was really good. Pop Up, the title track, is a fun, energetic pop rock song. Everything is slightly rougher around the edges, not in a way that makes it unpleasant to listen to, but instead in a way that really suits the genre, that makes it feel slightly more authentic, like a group of friends messing around in one of their garages. The song is full of youthful, rambunctious energy. It's the kind of fun pop-punk song, I spent so much of my life listening to, so of course I really enjoy listening to it here. Morse Code has a slightly larger, more anthemic sound. The lyrics are slightly more drawn up, which feels like it's giving more time and space for a roaring crowd to sing the lyrics alongside the members. Ouroboros goes kinda hard with a nasty bass riff and frantic guitars behind the vocals. The pre-chorus goes quiet for a moment, but you can still hear the drums building up in the background before the energy of the song explodes again in the chorus. The instrumental break before the final chorus is absolutely wild, everything sounds like it's breaking down, and that energy is carried into the song's final moments with the vocals added on top of everything. Traffic Jam starts a lot quieter and slower than the other songs on the EP. It feels like the narrator is trying to comb through his feelings during the song's opening, and then the explosive guitars and drums that come out of nowhere with increasingly desperate sounding vocals represent a kind of sudden release of emotions. The album closes with Pity Punk. The album closes with Pity Punk, which is probably the most emo sounding song on the album, with heavy guitars and drums and desperate whiny vocals. The song takes its time to increase and decrease its volume and tension, like it's going to... The album closes with Pity Punk, which is probably the most emo-sounding song on the album, with heavy guitars and drums and desperate, whiny vocals. The song takes its time to increase and decrease its volume and tension, like it's going through teenage mood swings. Of all the parts of the song, I think it's the second pre-chorus that I like the most. It gets a bit wild and intense in a way that's really cathartic. The song feels like it's trying and failing to keep up with its own emotions, in a good way. I was, like I said, really excited as soon as I heard about this debut, and I was definitely not disappointed. Even among the K-rock groups that I do like, I feel like they rarely capture that raw rush of emotions that I find so appealing in a lot of Western rock and pop punk that I listen to. Dragon Pony, though, definitely captured a lot of that in both the composition of these songs, but also in the delivery of these songs, which is slightly rougher, less polished at times. It adds a lot of charm and a lot of honesty to the record that definitely benefits it. I'm really looking forward to their next release.
거침없이 울려 퍼지는 chord 긁히는 마이크 위로 스테이지 멀리 시선 아스팔트 도시를 벗어나 자연을 숨쉬어 Kick and bass는 더 조용되는 tone 완벽해 we out of bar
One-Wee, Off-Road. I normally come to One-Wee for more emotional, sad, rainy songs, but they also have some great summer bops in their discography, like End of Spring, Veronica, and now Off-Road. The lyrics and sound of the song are kind of rambunctious, with this kind of fuck what everyone else is doing, it's just me and my friends and our shitty band against the world energy that I am in love with. I wouldn't say that Off-Road is a standout in their discography. It feels a bit muted in the verses and chorus where I think it could have gone even further, but it's still a really fun song to carry the last remnants of summer into the start of autumn. Solar Halo Ring is a great example of why One-Wee's more sentimental, romantic songs work so well. For one, Younghoon and Jungmyoung's voices carry so much emotion that make everything they sing feel so genuine and personal, and that combined with Kang Hee-hyun's guitar just delivers a 1-2 punch straight to your heart. The lyrics of the song also really get to me, like when Gyeok asks, "Have I ever loved this deeply? Was I a blue person to this extent?" Or those chorus lyrics promising a lifetime of happiness and pearls and roses on a sandy beach, a special ring just for us two. That's so romantic. It's the kind of stuff that has you giggling and kicking your feet, and the members deliver everything so perfectly. Piece of You is another energetic, summery song in the style of Off-Road, except it somehow turns up the Bildungsroman vibes up to 11. It's the kind of fun song that makes you kind of sad and nostalgic because it captures the feeling of memories from the good times before you knew those were the good times, if that makes sense. Overall, this was a very good end of summer comeback from One-Wee. This was a lot of fun to listen to and to start off the school year with.
깜빡 깜짝 놀랐지 심장은 riot 또 trick or treat everyone's a liar 머리 헤매로 아득해져 가는 정신
Psychers, House of Tricky, Watch Out. Psychers doing a slightly horror concept is so perfect, the members suit it so well in performances, and I think it matches the overall aesthetic and sound they've gone for in their discography. Obviously, the sounds and visuals used here are a bit darker in tone than their usual style, but it's still just as intense and slightly mischievous as their usual stuff. This was really fun. Witch is a potential new favorite title track for me. Even if it's lower in the song ranking here, the lyrics lean so heavily into the horror concept, and the intense synths behind their vocals combined with the slow, slightly menacing beat combine to create a perfect atmosphere for the song. Surprisingly, I think Minjae's rap suits the song the best, although Yechan and Sumin obviously also do a great job. It just feels like Minjae is really playing around here and having fun. The bridge is definitely the strongest point of the song, having the three rappers go back and forth handing off lines while the instrumental builds in intensity before the outro. It's just so satisfying. I'm really glad that they really, went for it with this song, as they always do. Back Off is an old-school hip-hop song with its synths built to match the album's overall vibe, while the drums and rap verses bring a little bit more energy. The pre-chorus is completely cut off from the verses and chorus in a way that feels almost unsettling, like you were dragged off into a corner of the room before you're pushed back into the action. Bittersweet feels like a combination of Witch and Back Off. It has the intense percussion and energy from Back Off with the strong commitment to the horror concept from Witch. The song incorporates drums, guitars, and what sounds like an orchestral chorus in its instrumental, and all of that is of course accompanied by some great vocal and rap moments from the members. The breakdown for the bridge accompanying Minjae's intense rapping is also perfect, and that ending pumps the energy of the song to 11. This is easily my favorite song that I've heard Psychers release so far. Sandcastle is softer in sound with a slightly dreamy pop sound for the verses with a stronger beat accompanying the mellow instrumental for the chorus. It is definitely up my alley. It's pretty easy to listen to with a slight elasticity from its beat that makes it endlessly addictive for me. Hang Around is also kind of dreamy and elastic in moments like Sandcastle, but with a slightly kookier delivery. The rap verses have the usual amount of character I expect from Psychers, and that pairs really well with the overall vibe of the song, which does feel a little bit like they were just throwing in whatever they thought would be fun in the studio. It feels slightly uncoordinated at times, but it never crosses the line into being too messy, and it's overall really fun to listen to and to try to keep up with. Psychers have gotten really good this year at creating their mini albums. Last year, I enjoyed their music for the most part, but I only ever really returned to a handful of songs rather than to any album in particular, though. But this year, there's been some really big improvements, and both Watch Out and Trial and Error have improved in their cohesion and overall quality of the complete package. I'm really proud to listen to the improvement, and I'm really proud of how the members have also continued to grow as performers as they explore more concepts. Yoonha, Growth Theory. I've been really bad, guys. I've never listened to a Yoonha album before this, and I've really been missing out. I will be checking out the rest of her discography. I don't care how long that will take. This album was full of so much emotion, and it was also straight up just super fun to listen to. I am now going to go, prepare yourself, pretty quickly, hopefully, through the whole track list. Mangrove Tree starts out chill and jazzy, but it then brings in a large, swooping chorus with strings and drums and everything you need for a big orchestral feel. The second verse carries that new energy with it, adding some rests with less intensity, but ultimately still continuing to build up the song's energy. Antmill is slightly more rambunctious and a rock song, featuring some gorgeous vocals in her lower register. It's another song with great build-up, and it gets so loud and powerful by its end, and I am absolutely obsessed with the song's aura. Attention has a strong folk rock influence, with those woodwinds that come in for the intro, and the general rhythm of the song also matches my understanding of folk music. It's a really fun song to dance and listen to, with great summery energy. Silvering is more folk rock, featuring fiddles instead of woodwinds in its intro this time. Although there is some woodwind action for just a little instrumental break before the final chorus, it's a bit lighter on its feet and a bit more spry. Curse for the Rocket Formula is another song featuring her lower register, which sounds so good on top of the gradually building guitars in the instrumental, which eventually expands to include strings and what sounds like barely their synth work. The song feels like the kind of thing out of a coming-of-age movie where a kid genius starting to piece together some big project meant to take her into the sky. It sounds hopeful, but in a way that makes you kind of sad. It makes me remember the amount of hope and excitement that I had in my childhood, and it makes me wish that I could still find that same amount of excitement somewhere in my current life. Sunfish, the title track, delivers more nostalgia, more build-up, more great layers of vocals on top of guitars, on top of drums, on top of everything else in the instrumental. It gets really jubilant by its end and completely tears away from reality for a bit. You get so lost in the fantastical world it creates during its runtime. Coriola's Force brings some darkness onto the album. It has the same intensity as Antmill, but it turns up the heat a bit with some slightly more prominent bass and angrier guitars. The verses are lighter in sound because they aren't as intensely angry as the chorus. Instead, they sound more detached and aloof. Yuna's voice maintains its signature lighter tone, but she does a great job delivering the required emotions for the song. Life Review does that thing that's kind of cliche of including a ticking clock in the instrumental, but I like it here because the song has so much to offer beyond that. It doesn't feel like it relies on the gimmick. There's still a big band in the song, with strings and big brass moments creating timeless, boundless feelings. Yuna does a great job of projecting her voice over the big instrumental and not getting drowned out. The song is ultimately emotionally intense and cinematic. Cloud starts out slower and softer, but you sense from the drums in the background that the song is planning on building up to something bigger. And you get that with a marching band's drum and some classical chorus vocals before the song's conclusion. Finally, East Wind is another more cinematic song at its start before the chorus introduces a more exciting rock sound with what sounds like some EDM elements as well. It's an interesting hybrid and a really fun way to conclude the album. All in all, this was so fun. It touched on a couple of different subgenres and sounds, but was ultimately just a very good rock album infused with some pop and classic elements. Highly recommend. Onyu, Flow. All Day really did turn out to be a pretty perfect pre-release. It gave an accurate taste of what the rest of the album would feature sonically, softer vocals, floaty synths, and just a generally dreamy feeling. The title track, Beat Drum, is a lighthearted dance song with a good beat behind it, as the title implies. Onyu has a really warm tone when he's doing his talk-sing rapping in the verses, and he does a great job of catching the beat in the song supports him fully, layering up behind him with background harmonies and instrumentation. It's really fun and kind of satisfying to listen to. Ola is relaxed, beachy, synthy song. The vocals and synths and everything in general are very light, floaty, dreamy, just matching the overall vibe of the album. Maestro might be my song of the year. It takes the floaty synth sound from Hola to another extreme. There is almost nothing tethering Maestro to the ground. There's these bell-like percussion instruments in the back of my ear the whole time, this kind of distorted bass layer at the bottom of the song, and of course some soft, gorgeous vocals from Onyu. The song feels like a bit of a trip into another dimension before you're dropped back onto Earth to return to the other songs on the album. Shape of My Heart really grounds the listener with its consistent stomping beat in the background of the song and its slower pace. There's some layers of electronics in the back of the song, but most of the focus really is just on the beat and the vocals. Focus ends the album with some more intense emotions presented by the strong Soultronica synths. The song feels kind of spacey, kind of sci-fi-esque. I mean, this was a really fun, really pretty album to listen to overall. Onyu did not disappoint. My only complaint is a fairly obvious one that you could probably guess I would make based purely off of looking at the tracklist. These songs are way too short. Not a single one crosses the 3-minute mark. I want more of these good songs, not less. Aside from that though, this was 10 out of 10, no notes. Lusemble, TTYL. Dare I say, this is the best Lusemble comeback, and it might slowly become one of my favorite post-PBC releases from the girls. TTYL, the title track, is a fun, kind of quirky electro dance song. After this and Girls' Night, I'm realizing more and more how much the Lusemble girls suit these kinds of fun, late-night banger type of songs. The song is fast-paced and light on its feet, with cute vocal distortions and sparkly synths and electro elements peppering the instrumental. Go On in particular stands out to me on the song. Her voice is so pretty here, and it really suits the almost robotic-sounding parts of the song. Cotton Candy has a really pretty depth of sound from its bass and lower-laying beat that's really appealing to me. The song is kind of dreamy, but in a somewhat disorienting way, and the song's bridge introduced a briefly witchy sound. If I may, I think it's the most stereotypically Luna-like that I think Lusemble has ever sounded, or at least it's the closest to my favorite aspects of Luna's discography. Confession starts out with the same kind of spooky, witchy sound present in Cotton Candy's bridge, but the chorus strips that away to primarily feature bass and beat behind the girls' vocals. These two songs are sisters, not twins, and I like that, and I also think the whole concept of having the same song and then taking it into two different directions was really cool, and I'm glad that they did it. Hocus Pocus is Lusemble's take on a New Jack Swing song. It's got the genre-typical beat and synths in the background, but the overall effect is magical and dreamy in a really cool way, and once again, Go On's voice stands out a lot to me as particularly suiting the sound. Secret Diary is the least floaty song on the album. It's still got a magical touch from the strings behind the trap beat, but the song feels a bit more ominous because we are so suddenly grounded again after how much fun the other songs had launching us into space. I think this comeback really cemented what Lusemble is doing musically. To me, their entire discography feels like a take on a magical girl concept with some darker elements hidden within. The synths and the echoey, sometimes robotic vocal effects present on most of their songs really give me that kind of feeling. I think they've started carving out a pretty unique niche for themselves, and I think this album was their best release to date, like I already said.
You stay calling me extra sweet, calling me extra sweet. 달콤한 pineapple slice of me, this pineapple slice of me.
Baekhyun, Hello World. Baekhyun's back, baby, and he's here to show y'all bitches how it's done. That was way funnier in my head. I'm so sorry. Let's just start. The album starts with the laid-back Good Morning. In the song, Baekhyun is thanking his lover for being the morning in his life. In the second verse, the lyrics mention how his day only begins once his lover comes to him after a long day. Regardless of the time of day or whatever transpired, they reinvigorate each other, bringing each other to life. The time they spend with each other is a gift. It's really sweet, and the calm energy of the song actually makes it a great song to actually start your day to. Pineapple Slice, the title track, is a classic sensual R&B dance track. It's got a bit of groove behind its instrumental, but the song is really sold completely by Baekhyun and his vocal delivery. The song isn't in your face, but it is still noticeably confident and infectious. There's great layers of synths and strings and beat to create a full sound, and it all just completely surrounds you in a perfect way, and I'm completely obsessed. Rendezvous has a little piano powering the verse instrumental, but subsides for the chorus, where the bass and percussion take over a bit. I do love that kind of instrumental combination. It creates a really easy rhythm to sway to and the kind of atmosphere that you'd expect from a good cafe in the late morning. Cold Heart leaves behind the somewhat more grounded instrumentals for a deeper, more spacey sound with its intense synths and slightly noisier beat. This kind of electronic sound conveys that feeling of separation and the breaking of a bond really well. Baekhyun sings about how his lover has a cold heart that caused the breakup, and the instrumental supports the message with its distant, less organic instrumental makeup. Woo brings us back to the sexy R&B jams, but this time with a late-night vibe from its trap beat and the piano synth notes in the instrumental. Truth Be Told also gives me late-night vibes from its instrumental, but it includes these bird sounds that make me think that I'm supposed to be getting early morning, which would make more sense with the general color palette of the album. The song feels kind of lethargic, like it's nursing a hangover from the night before, and the lyrics, especially in the second verse, come across like a sort of stream of consciousness rambling. To me, it seems like the love that he was singing about in the song isn't turning out how he expected. It feels unreal and mixed up, and he can't tell exactly what's going on emotionally with him, and so the slower pace of the song makes you sense that he's trying to unsuccessfully untangle everything. And those are my thoughts on the songs. As a whole, I really enjoyed this album. I think I'd rank it second in his discography behind the Bambi mini album, because we all know that that is pretty much untouchable. The songs weren't super connected story-wise, at least to me, but sonically they all work well together, exploring a few different moods you can get out of R&B production. Overall, a very good listen, very much what I expected from a Baekhyun release. P1 Harmony, Sad Song. P1 Harmony title tracks always slap, and Sad Song is no exception. The combination of more melodic vocals with a chanty rap in the chorus scratches my brain so right, and it's insanely catchy. The Jungsub Kiho Soul combination in the second verse is also incredibly satisfying to listen to, especially Jungsub's slightly more like lower energy rap. The instrumental is something that feels new for their title tracks, with that piano being very prominent in the mix. Aside from how fun the song is to listen to, it's also super entertaining because of how bitter it is in tone. It seems like they're talking about some ex of theirs, saying that following this breakup, every song is going to feel like a sad song, nothing will ever be as good as them together. It's so petty, and I heavily fuck with that. It's Alright is surprisingly sweet despite it keeping the slightly lower energy tone of Sad Song's second verse. They're still working through some of the bitterness, but they're also realizing their intrinsic value as people. Kiho carries that post-chorus so well with his signature tangy vocal tone. I like the light reggae touch in the song's composition. It had me swaying in my seat for the entirety of its runtime. Last Call is a proper 2010 style pop or pop punk dance track with a large instrumental featuring guitars and electronic work in equal parts and some nice wah-ohs in the hook. The song is feel-good and kind of nostalgic and perfect if you want to throw your worries to the wind for a bit and just dance. Welcome To starts off kind of spooky, foreboding, with the guitar lingering behind Jiyoung's verse. Intak's first verse features a slightly nastier guitar behind him. The chorus is pretty perfect for the mood as well. Its higher energy comes from the added instrumental aspects, while the tempo is still a bit slower, so it keeps that slightly foreboding feeling. Jiyoung sounds so pretty and slightly whiny in his pre-chorus, and the deeper tones in Taeho's voice accompany the chorus perfectly. Based purely on its vibes, Welcome To became my favorite song on the album. I'm always a sucker for any remotely spooky feeling rock song. You is a sweet, kind of jazzy number. It's a classical charming love song describing the excitement and uncertainty of a blooming relationship. These two characters' mornings revolve around each other, and they're becoming more and more alike. That's how close they're getting. It's so cute. Soul sounds really good when he opens the bridge. He's got a slightly whinier delivery, and it sounds really cool there. It really suits the tone of the song in my opinion. All You closes with a little brass band moment, which I am also a sucker for. Wasp is then the heavy hip-hop song of the album, like what was more prominently featured on their previous albums. It's just Jungsub and Intak going back and forth on top of a slightly eerie beat. It's fun, even if it's not really my style. P1 Harmony have had all hits and no misses this year. I really thought that Killin' It was like the pinnacle of their discography as an album, but Sad Song is putting up some heavy competition. It's maybe the first time that it felt like P1 Harmony was more deliberately timing their release with a specific season, because the general tone of this album is perfect for the start of fall and the colder season, at least where I am. This isn't P1 Harmony at their noisiest, most in-your-face, but it's still impossible to ignore them. Watching their growing success in recent years has been so vindicating. They deserve it completely.
Look at my eyes, look at my life, my girl. You like it right? Oh no, no, no. Look at my eyes, look at my life, my girl. You like me right? No, no, no. They say
Boy Next Door, 19.99, or 1999, depending on the interview that I watched and how they pronounced it there. 19.99 gave us a touch of a more matured Boy Next Door, keeping some of their usual youthful energy but pairing it with more introspective looks at growing up. The album plays with a couple of new instrumental touches than the rest of their discography as well, but it's still very Boy Next Door style. I'll be honest, I wasn't really feeling Dangerous on first listen. It's more abrasive than Boy Next Door's usual stuff, so it threw me off. It's grown on me though, even if it is still my least favorite single they've released thus far. Even if the song is sonically a departure from their usual style, Dangerous still carries that signature Boy Next Door charm, especially in the rap verses. The lyrics are really fun, with a lot of references to their parents. The song is bratty and in your face in a way that really works for the start of an album about growing into an adult. It's like the final big declaration of youth before they move on to other songs. Gonna Be a Rock is surprisingly emotional following Dangerous. The guitars and I think strings, or synths or something, in the background of the instrumental make the song feel very nostalgic, and that particular chorus melody is very reminiscent of the kinds of songs I would put on road trip playlists when I was younger and just wanted to stare out the window and be alone with my thoughts. This kind of melancholic breakup song is in between crying and but sometimes in its emotions. It's got some energy and some anger in it, but it just seems a bit tired rather than fully angry the way that But Sometimes was. I do also like the fact that they're using the whole throwing rocks at your window as a way of expressing anger, combined with love rather than just like trying to get their lover's attention. I think it's a really cute detail. It was cute. I don't speak Korean, but I could listen to these dudes yap forever. And then we get to the title track. I was a bit worried that they take a song titled Nice Guy into, a nice guy direction, but the song doesn't come off like that at all. The only reason I'm allowing all the rizzes and shawties in the song is because Boy Next Door have such a loser-like charm that's a core part of their identity, and using terms like this seemingly so genuinely really adds to that loser-likeness. This is loser behavior of the highest degree. The song overall is really lighthearted sounding and fun, with its roundish synths and the tiny brass parts of the instrumental. It's a good song for a morning stroll with a bit of pep in its step, but nothing too overwhelming. And the little instrumentals added to the end is really cute, and I wish it was there longer so I could enjoy it more. 20 just hits for me, and I kind of wish it didn't. This is the song that really captures what I thought the core ethos of this album would be based on how the members were talking about it during promotions. This kind of confused, melancholic reaction to growing older and realizing that life is still the same and that this golden age of life doesn't seem to be all that golden. Ending the chorus with that question, when I'm 30, will I be smiling then, really hammers home how we are all just like waiting for things to finally be right, how we have no choice but to hope that eventually things will feel better. I was really impressed by this song, and I've been really feeling it lately. I don't know, maybe that's why it's my favorite. Me is another slightly more melancholic sounding track, except this time the guys are calling out for someone to share their misery, because having even just one person by your side can make the difficult times easier to bear. The song is quite comforting actually, even while its sound stays pretty low-key the whole time. The lyrics get nicer as the song goes on. Even if you don't currently have someone next to you to lessen life's blow, hopefully Call Me can be a bit of a help temporarily. When Boy Next Door initially debuted, I was kind of worried that they'd be stuck with a slightly cutesier, energetic concept for a long time. I mean, they literally have boy in their name. But I'm really proud to see that they've already started setting the stage for a more natural transition into more mature themes as the members age. Getting to experience their growth as someone who is also their age is really special, not to get too parasocial, but it does really feel good to grow up alongside them and to see them question themselves in the same way that I've been dealing with my own stuff. As much as I fell in love with their brattier, more rambunctious songs and performances, the members also excel at more toned-down concepts like this because, fundamentally, it was the members' actual personalities and experiences that made Boy Next Door, Boy Next Door. Their concept isn't limited in that sense. It can be whatever the members are feeling at the moment, and it still feels authentic and on brand. And I think that's what makes this group feels so special in a very polished and manufactured feeling industry. Like, obviously, there's still a lot of editing and practicing and behind the scenes shenaniganery that goes on to produce this group, but the end product still feels very true to the 6 members. So yeah, I like this comeback. Good comeback, good group.
And when the girls keep playing dead, like that song is dead. It's dead. It's dead. Let it burn it up, but won't it now? But it is dead.
Extraordinary Heroes, instead. So, I've never really listened to all that much metal. It pains me to admit that the furthest that I've ever explored the genre was like a handful of Black Veil Bride songs, which I'm sure barely even count. Despite that though, I'm really excited by this release. The members have said that they don't really have all the same taste in music, so I'm always really happy to see them try out different genres based on different members' interests. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, regardless of what genres or subgenres Extraordinary Heroes explores, they always manage to paint their music with their own signature colors. Getting an absolute legend of Korean rock to feature on the song is also pretty big, and I hope is a testament to them getting taken more seriously within the rock scene, even if they are still an idol band. I'm sure it's clear by now that I think they have so much to offer and that I want as many people as possible getting introduced to them and their music. Anyways, the song itself. Like I said, I'm by no means an expert on the genre, but I've seen other people online point out details that make this a full-on metal release, aside from just the screamo elements. Personally, I love the pre-chorus the most. Juyeon obviously brings the heat, as he always does, and the contrast between Gaon's softer voice in the first pre-chorus and Jungsu's soft, sharper tone in the second also works really well to build the song's energy. The English lyrics are also really good. It's kind of wild to look at the dichotomy of Extraordinary Heroes' 2 English songs, considering the fact that they've said they normally write their songs in English first and then translate them into Korean. I'm surprised that they don't have more English language songs. Anyways. Exploring anger and frustration is a pretty obvious move for your first metal song. It's a bit difficult to scream about other emotions on a song, although that could be kind of entertaining. The song's main message matches Extraordinary Heroes' general rebelling against the system, carving your own path regardless of the shit that gets thrown your way that's normally like a theme in their music. To me at least, it feels like it's them confronting the fact that even if you put on a brave face, sometimes things said about you or pushed onto you will still get to you, it will still sting, and rather than bottle all of that up, they're releasing that energy back into the world in a really unapologetic manner. It's incredibly powerful, and I think that it can honestly help some people work through the issues in their life. Yes, sometimes it's good to calmly sort through your life and take into consideration multiple aspects, but sometimes you just have to let everything out, even if the end result doesn't look particularly pretty.
걷잡을 수 없이 스르르 녹아내려 죽어가던 마음을 기적처럼 살려낸 그 순간 따뜻한 눈물이 주르륵 흘러내려 너의 그 미소가 다시 버텨낼 수 있게 해줘.
Day 6, Band-Aid. This little segment is about to be more a look at the story told in the album than the music itself, I'm sorry, but that's what I really got out of listening to the album. The album starts with Monster, which feels ominous at its start, and it keeps this unsettling feeling throughout its entire runtime. The verses are a bit quieter, crawling along, but the chorus hits full force. This foreboding sound pairs really well with the lyrics of feeling monstrous, unlovable, like a creature forced only to emerge under the cover of darkness. In the bridge, Wonpil sings about how he isn't actually a monster, how he wants someone to reach out to him, but then Young K comes back in the final chorus to reaffirm his unlovableness. It's heartbreaking and emotionally honest, and aside from that, it's also a really fun listen. I think they did a great job musically with bringing in this kind of darker atmosphere that we don't see that much in Day 6 songs. The title track, Meltdown, is a happier song than Monster in sound and lyrics, at least to me. The narrator's walls are put down, their icy heart is melting, and they are able to give and receive love again. She Smiled, then, is another more lighthearted song, where the members describe the feeling of being around their lover. The chorus lyrics paint a really pretty picture, with some nice imagery of romantic autumn nights and shy confessions. It's a perfect song for the current season, and its gentle sincerity is really charming. I was in love with Shitty Game from the moment it started playing, and I heard that bass riff at its core. The song is fast-paced and frantic, and it matches the chaos of the game of life that the members are singing about in the lyrics. They're hoping to have this partner that stays with them and loves them and helps them survive the game. Help Me Rock and Roll is a really fun, slightly more old-school rock-style song. Of course, it's a fun listen. It's a song about using rock and music in general as an outlet for these emotions towards another person. The members are begging for the ability to be able to fully express their love for their romantic object with this really youthful first love style desperation. From the mood and sound, the song is a complete dance is like younger sibling. The two songs feel very similar to me. Counter is a bit more mellow in sound than the preceding songs. The lyrics are towing the line between two people who can fight a lot but are still in love, and a relationship that's doomed to end because neither person is willing to tap out of the fighting. The song turns the increasingly positive, romantic mood of the album around. And then I'm Fine continues to show how this relationship is rotting from the inside. The sound gets heavier, and the narrator is begging for the relationship to end, but the increasingly desperate calls of "I'm fine without your love" feel more and more like attempts to reassure the speaker rather than the listener. The narrator doesn't have it in himself to end the relationship, so he has to beg his partner to put things to an end herself. And then the album concludes with Still There, the most emotional sounding song on the whole album, with a string ensemble in the background to really cement the emotions. The relationship is over, they finally managed to cut things off, but the narrator is still living in the past, lingering on the good times and unable to move on. It's depressing the way the speaker begs for his partner to please not leave, to please love him. He reassures that he's still here, he's still willing to make things work, seemingly unable to reconcile with the fact that based on what transpired in the past, maybe these two people just aren't good for each other. Overall, this is storytelling in music. This is what I want out of albums. Musically, this was excellent, but emotionally and lyrically, it was incredibly satisfying to listen to and analyze a bit as well. Day6 have never done me wrong before. Also, I'm so proud of how successful this comeback and Forever were. I've only been here since 2019, but I remember how much of a fight it was to get Day6 their first win for Time of Our Life, and seeing their current level of success and the amount of love that they're finally getting really makes me emotional. I'm so glad that they stuck through everything together, and I'm so glad that they're still making art together.
It's a pleasure show. 내게 말해봐 what you want. What you like. 너도 몰래 이끌리는 스타일. 그저께는 graphic up down. 지루했던 현실에 어떤 것들의 world. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Key, Pleasure Shop. This was pretty perfect, I have no notes. Key set out to do something very specific with this album, and I think he accomplished his goals. At this point, we all know what to expect from Key's title tracks. They're shiny, sleek bops that show off the sharpness of his tone and delivery really well. In Pleasure Shop, there's a deeper beat present that resonates in your chest and carries the relatively lighter parts of the instrumental through the rest of the song's runtime. The faster second verse helps build up the energy of the song before we return to the chorus. The song is a bit more reserved sounding than his other dance title tracks, and I think that adds to the concept. It feels a bit more, I'd say, sterile and calm in a way that an advertisement for the future would be. I think it works really well. It's not my number one title track of his yet, but that's because of his overall high-quality discography, not because of any major flaws within Pleasure Shop. Overthink hooked me immediately with its strong beat and the heavy layers of editing on top of Key's voice. The vocals are actually buried deeper into the song, like they're just another part of the instrumental rather than the part that the listener is supposed to be focusing on. Because of this, the song is just pure spacey, futuristic vibes, like what a sci-fi writer from a couple decades ago might have imagined a computer would spit out if we asked it to sing a song. In that way, it feels like it has an even closer ties to the concept at the core of the album than the title track. I saw someone online say that Overthink reminds them of Rewind by Jonghyun, and I completely agree. The crux of both songs is an electronic, spacey instrumental with the vocals being secondary. I'd say the major difference is that Overthink has a much more prominent beat, while Rewind is a bit more floaty and somehow even less tethered to reality than Overthink is. Golden is the first song on the mini-album not to feature its beat as prominently, and is instead a bit softer and more melodic. The bridge is really pretty. It sounds exactly like the kind of bridge you'd get from any SM title track, except that the rest of the song matches that energy totally, so you don't get that contrast you normally get from SM songs. I also liked how the final chorus started by stripping the synth elements away from the instrumental to briefly just center the piano and Key's vocals. It adds a more human touch to the album before we re-enter the futuristic soundscape. Like Golden, I Know is also not the most eye-catching track on first listen. It's mostly just bass and beat and Key's vocals, which I won't complain about. There's some synth and other electronic elements deeper in the instrument's layers, but you can only really hear them during the chorus. For some reason, the rhythm of the song reminds me a bit of Overthink. To me, it reads like a human polished up the computer's attempt at music to create something a bit more grounded. That's just based on vibes, though I don't really have any particular reason for that connection beyond that. Going Up is just really cool to me. Like I Know, the core of the instrumental is the bass, but this time it's somehow even more prominent and the beat takes a bit of a backseat. Key's mostly singing in a higher, softer style paired with some echoey effects on his vocals that make everything feel even more spacey. The song is simply mesmerizing to me, and the song also gives a lot of space for the instrumental to breathe and expand with Key's voice there to guide the listener, so you just feel like you're leaving your physical body for moments. Obsessed isn't a strong enough word to describe how much I am in love with this song. Novocaine sounds like the most emotional that Key gets on the album. The production does that thing that I love in songs where, at the start of the chorus, the instrumental goes away and you're just left with vocals that have at least 5 layers of editing on top of them. Somehow, this kind of production allows you to feel all of the emotions of the singer that would normally be obstructed by that much editing, but instead, whoever was behind this managed to thread the needle to pull even more emotion out of the song through this excessive post-production. To me, it makes the song feel lonely. You just have this one very electronic voice singing on top of a synth-based instrumental, like it's a little robot lost in space. I'm the kind of person who gets sad about Mars rovers being alone on Mars for so long, so maybe that's why the song gets to me. Regardless, I've heard a decent amount of songs like this in my lifetime, but they always hit for me, and they always have a sort of nostalgic feeling. It just works. Key's done a sci-fi concept before, for example with the Bad Love mini-album in 2021. While Bad Love's concept leaned more heavily into campy, alien-centered sci-fi, Pleasure Shop is a much sharper look at the potential future of our current technological innovations. There's still some really cool visuals and album inclusions, but the album's central message feels a lot more pointed. As exciting as it is to play around with all of the shiny new AI toys, Key is also criticizing the potential shift away from human-centered art and a more human-centered world, towards one focused on machine production. I think it's a really smart direction for him to go in, particularly because it's one that suits the sounds and visuals he's used in prior solo works, but also because it's one that speaks directly to his worries as an artist. These worries about AI and the overuse of technology aren't new and aren't unexplored, but I think he does a really good job of fleshing out as a musical and visual project how he can showcase his own feelings about the matter. The title track especially feels like the most poignant critique. To me, it seems like he's saying that our need to easily access pleasure, temporary hits of dopamine, is what leaves us so vulnerable to artificially created art. If we're just looking for the next thing to keep us entertained for a minute, there's nothing stopping us from mindlessly consuming slop, and that's what it feels like the song is touching on. The other songs also incorporate lyrics and a general vibe in this direction, but I'm inclined to point to the title track as the clearest indicator of Key's feelings on this album, partially because as the title track, it is meant to be the representative of the album as a whole, but also because it's the song on the album that he has writing credits on. So yeah, that's how I feel about the album and a brief look into what I think he is trying to communicate with this project. We can always expect something visually and sonically interesting from his solo works, but I think that this is maybe the most message-centered album he's released as a soloist so far, and I'm really enjoying digging a bit into the album's overall themes.